Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Brockhoff, and the title of my project is Does Active Learning Enhance Learning Outcomes in the Criminal Justice Discipline? It's the responsibility of educators to provide students with the opportunity for educational growth, and of course within that, it is our responsibility that we ensure that instructional objectives and learning outcomes are met. The instructional objectives are the intended achievements. Another way of saying it, of course, that's our course objectives. And for Introduction to Criminal Justice, an example would be describe and explain the various terms within the criminal justice systems, or maybe also distinguish between the civil and the criminal court system. The learning outcomes, the measurable cognitive, behavioral, and attitudinal development of students, that's going to be what do we want those students to achieve, and what are we going to assess at the end of the semester. And of course there's various types of instructional strategies. Lecture, the traditional method, it tends to reinforce the student's role as a passive learner. Students are presented with material, they memorize it, and they regurgitate it on exam day. It really promotes surface learning. The students aren't really coming to an understanding of the material, they're just wanting to pass that exam. Another strategy that we like to use, or that's used, is active learning. As an example, our cartoon here says the collaborative learning stuff is great when you have Alex in your group. Hopefully the instructors there ensuring that all members of the group are participating and assisting them as they need. Active learning can be defined as any learning method that engages the student in the learning process. It goes beyond memorization. It promotes critical thinking, right? The ability to solve problems, formulate inferences, make decisions. It encourages deep learning. Students are able to come to a big picture understanding of the concept and terms presented. Again, it's not just memorization, it's coming to an understanding of the materials. Again, my research question is, does active learning enhance learning outcomes in the criminal justice discipline? My hypothesis is that through the use of active learning exercises, the learning outcomes will improve. My method was during the spring 2015 semester, I utilized specifically designed active learning exercises through exam 1 and exam 2, and compared that data with the first two exams from the fall 2014 semester. And what I looked at was the overall mean and median of exam 1 and 2, and also looked at the standard deviation to evaluate the dispersal of the grades after the intervention. The class I chose was Introduction to Criminal Justice. As a assistant professor in criminal justice, I realized that Introduction to Criminal Justice really sets the foundation of learning throughout the degree programs for the criminal justice courses. And of course, in the criminal justice discipline, the Associate of Arts, we have 5 core courses, with Intro being the first course, Court Systems, Correctional Systems, Fundamentals, and then lastly, Police Systems. If students are able to grasp the concept and terms in Introduction, then it helps them with those other core courses. And again, the classes I utilized, the fall 2014, we had 56 students enrolled in the courses, and in the spring, we had a lower number of 35 students enrolled in the Introduction to Criminal Justice classes at the Rio Grande campus. And of course, you know, the one thing I wanted to make sure of is I always use active learning exercises, and I didn't stop in the fall when I developed this plan. And I always like to use current events as a matter of discussion. There was a great article in today's paper about a death row inmate being released after 39 years. That's something that we discussed as a class. Also reciprocal questioning, and of course question stems. And for the exercises that I used for leading up to exam 1, right off the bat on day 1, I started with 2 truths and a lie. I had each student write down 2 truths about themselves and 1 lie, And then I had the students turn those cards in, and we had to guess which of the three was the lie, and also which student wrote that. Right off the bat, what I wanted to do is I wanted to set the tone that in my class, it's all going to be about active learning and participation. Nobody's going to sit back and get that free ride. And so as I progressed, as into day 2, I used critical thinking exercise. Should we fear the police? Day 3, I had them write a 1-minute paper, muddiest or clearest point in the chapter. Day 4, think, pair, and share. Right? Should we allow plea bargaining in the United States? Day 6, used a little activity, 7 little words. It's almost like a crossword puzzle. Day 7, we had a graded quiz. Day 8, we had a lot of good discussion when it came to, does the show Bait Car constitute entrapment? And I think it really helped the students gain an understanding what is and what is not used as entrapment by looking at this show. And then lastly, the day before the exam, we played a little game called Survivor, and the students used that as a collaborative exercise to review for that exam. When I looked at the comparisons between the semesters, the fall 2014 and the spring 2015 on the exams, I saw that on exam 1, the mean scores stayed about the same. On exam 2, I noticed that in the fall, the overall mean was a 73.7, whereas in the spring, the mean was 80.9. So again, when we look at these, I wanted to look at the median score, and what I found in the median score, that again in exam 1, the scores were relatively the same, a 1-point difference, and also with exam 2, now the scores, there was only a 1-point difference. By looking at the mean and median and comparing, I showed that in exam 2 there was a 7-point dispersal in the mean, but only a 1-point difference in the median. What that data showed me was that a smaller number or percentage of students scored a D or below in the spring semester, thus increasing the number of students who scored near the mean score, allowing for a smaller distribution. And basically what that means was a smaller number failed. Hopefully through the intervention, right, that it brought those bottom scores up more towards that mean. And as an example, again, in the fall 2014, 32% of the students received a D or below. That was 18 out of 56, where in the spring, only 7 out of 35 received that D or below. And again, we show the graph showing those comparisons. As far as my research project, again, I truly believe in active learning, and I know it's a key component in the learning process. Instructors must utilize and develop strategies that engage the student in deep learning. We must not rely on surface learning. And as a result of my research, again, I found that what I believe contributed to the lower number of failures was the fact that we implemented those directed active learning exercises, and I feel that that contributed to fewer failures and rose those bottom scores. That concludes my presentation. I have a list of my references. Thank you.